The movie begins with the China-Korea Economic Cooperation Summit held in China. A woman named Sung Yi is seen rehearsing for the show that will feature various ministers. After the rehearsal, everyone praises her for her good work. However, she is a bit nervous since it is her first time working with the minister. As she tries to calm herself, she receives a phone call from Uncle Zhang Bei. He informs her that he has found the person that they had been searching for over a decade. Also, he asks her to return to Korea as soon as she is finished with her work. Later, after the summit, she excitedly leaves and rushes to Beijing airport. The next scene flashes back to 1993 in Incheon. Park De-suk and Zhang Bei, two retired army officers, work as debt collectors for a finance company. While they are walking down the street, they stumble across one of the company's clients, Kang Myung-ja, who is 2 months overdue on her debt payment. As soon as she sees them, she runs away with her daughter, but is stopped immediately. They inquire why she hasn't paid yet, and she explains that her husband suddenly died, making it difficult for her, and requests a month's notice. After some thought, the debt collector asks for something as a pawn so that they can trust she will pay later. But Myung-ja replies she doesn't have anything to pawn. So De-suk snatches up the girl and walks away, telling her to pay the money and get her the next day. Next, Sung Yi is crying in the car, and De-suk gives her a small bear to comfort her. He tries to console her, but his comments are sharp and direct, and she can't stop crying. On the other hand, after her child is taken away, Myung-ja goes to the place where her husband used to work and asks for his paycheck, but the owner rebukes her and insists that he has already paid for his work. It is revealed that she is a Chinese national who illegally entered South Korea. Myung-ja then requests a loan from him, but he flatly refuses. She then phones someone and tells them about her situation. Fortunately, the person on the other end of the line agrees to transfer the money. Then, she leaves a message for De-suk, claiming she'll bring the money the next day at 9 a.m. However, when she steps outside the phone booth, 2 officers arrive to arrest her because she is in the country illegally. Next, De-suk offers Sung Yi his room and instructs her to sleep. Meanwhile, Zhang Bei is concerned that Myung-ja will report them for kidnapping the child. To clarify, De-suk claims they did not kidnap her and are using her merely as a pawn. He also adds that her mother cannot report to the police because of her legal status. Amidst all this, Sung Yi falls asleep crying. The next day, their enraged boss berates them for kidnapping the child. They are told to return her and collect the money, or else they would have to cover the debt themselves. Back in the car, De-suk asks Sung Yi for her home address so that he can return her. However, she remains silent initially, and taking advantage of the traffic jam, she opens the car door and flees. The 2 men follow her, but are unsuccessful in catching her. She loses a shoe while running and returns home with only 1 shoe. But her mother is not there at home, and due to her absence, she recalls happy moments from the past. The next day, De-suk is summoned to the police station because Myung-ja wishes to speak with him. She informs him that she is being deported back to China and that Sung Yi's uncle, Choi Byung-dal, would pay off the debt and adopt the child. She then requests De-suk to inform her daughter that she has gone to work and leaves her a pager and a photograph for her. Meanwhile, Sung Yi leaves a message saying, "I will find you, Mom," and sets out to find her. De-suk eventually arrives at their house and discovers the shoe and the message. Soon, the night falls, but Sung Yi is still looking for her mom. Moments later, a drunk, homeless man attempts to kidnap her, but De-suk comes just in time to save her. Then he informs her that her mother has returned to China to work and that her uncle is on his way to take her to be adopted by a wealthy family. Hearing this, Sung Yi bursts into tears as De-suk takes her with him, pitying her. After some time, Sung Yi seems to be settling comfortably at De-suk's place. She cleans, organizes, and even runs errands for them. One day, he receives a call from Choi Byung-dal, who says he'll deposit $500 and pick her up on Sunday. As the day of the departure approaches, the debt collectors take her out. They pamper her and fulfill all of her wishes. On the way, Sung Yi gives De-suk a nickname, Park Seung-bo. Later at home, Zhang Bei prepares a farewell cake, stacking a choco pie, and proposes that Sung Yi blow out the candles. She becomes emotional, thinking about leaving them, and eventually exits the room. The next day, De-suk brings her to the bus stop where her uncle will meet them. He hands her a paper and tells her to call him. He even buys her a CD player, and she gladly hugs him. Soon, a man approaches and introduces himself as Choi Byung-dal, but Sung Yi doesn't seem to recognize him. However, he claims they've met before, but can't recall her name. Before they part ways, Do-seok hands her the photograph her mother had left for her and reminds her that she'll come back for her someday. They're parting ways, but neither of them is happy with the separation. We see Do-seok is worried and concerned about Sung-yi. When Jong-bae suggests that they call her, he declines, but later leaves a message for her. When he receives no response from her, he calls Byung-dal's number. His wife answers the phone but hangs up, claiming she has no idea what he's talking about. This makes Do-seok suspicious, so he finds the man's address and decides to visit him. Later, when he meets Byung-dal, he appears to be drunk. When Do-seok asks for Sung-yi's new address, he gets refused by the old man. Frustrated with his response, Do-seok becomes harsh, and eventually, Byung-dal admits to selling the girl for $300, but is unaware of her address. Hearing this, Do-seok grows furious and leaves, taking Sung-yi's belongings with him. In the following scene, we witness a drunk woman waking up. She demands that Sung-yi bring her water and pain relievers. She instructs her to clean the floor, the dishes, and even the toilet. Meanwhile, Sung-yi quietly obeys her commands. It turns out that the place is a room salon in Busan. Later that night, Sung-yi steals a phone and leaves a message to her mother. On the other hand, Do-seok finds the pager in her backpack and receives the message. He instantly leaves her a message and provides her with his phone number, but he forgets to include the area code. Sung-yi tries but fails to contact him. She then pages Do-seok, who then discovers that he forgot to include his area code. Later at the bar, a drunk customer is upset as a hostess refuses his approach and throws a glass against the wall. A broken piece becomes stuck on Sung-yi's left cheek, injuring her. However, the owner refuses to take her to the hospital and instead treats the wound with iodine. On the other side, Do-seok realizes his mistake and sends her another message with the correct area code. Sung-yi contacts him immediately after receiving his message and informs him that she is in the Cha-Cha-Cha room salon in Busan. Immediately, Do-seok and Jong-bae leave for Busan. When they arrive, Do-seok is shocked to find her condition. He smashes the glass door and pulls her out, desperate. When the salon lady intervenes, he assures her that he would repay her money as well as compensate her for the broken door. The deal works out, and on their journey home, he consoles Sung-yi. In the next scene, Sung-yi is taken to the hospital for treatment. Despite the high cost, Do-seok pays for the surgery by selling his car to cover the bill. Then, he takes her to a school to be registered, but her admission is denied since she does not have a Korean family register. He attempts to persuade the principal, but it turns out to be impossible. However, the principal advises that he adopt her as a daughter so that she can receive an education. Hearing this, Sung-yi becomes unhappy, and Jong-bae convinces her that if she studies hard, she would be able to see her mother. Finally, she agrees, and Do-seok becomes her legal father. She thereafter begins her normal life, going to school and excelling in her studies. Soon enough, she grows into an adult as the days pass. Sung-yi later attends college and majored in Chinese. One day, Myung-ja comes to see her, but after seeing her living happily with Do-seok, she leaves. One night, Do-seok is up late waiting for Sung-yi. Apparently, she has been on a blind date and is late. After a while, a boy brings drunk Sung-yi carrying on his back. When the two guardians are interviewing the guy, Do-seok gets a call from her grandma in China. She asks him to bring Sung-yi to China to visit her mother, as she is seriously ill. Hearing this news, they immediately leave for China. In the next scene, Myung-ja and Sung-yi have a touching reunion as they meet after a long time. Later, Myung-ja expresses her gratitude to Do-seok for keeping her daughter as his own. Then he invites Myung-ja to her daughter's graduation, but she reveals that she only has a few days left. She begs him to find Sung-yi's father and take her to meet him. Processing all this information, the following day, Do-seok and Sung-yi return to Korea. One day, Sung-yi notices Do-seok's worn-out shoes. She decides to purchase him a new pair and secretly works in a factory to pay for it and lies to him about going on a school trip. In the meantime, Do-seok is seen looking for Sung-yi's father. He feels a sharp pain in his head, but he ignores it and continues to search for her father. Finally, he tracks him down, but turns out he already has a new wife and a child. Nevertheless, Do-seok fulfills his promise by reuniting Sung-yi with her father. Assuming she will go with the real father, he leaves without saying anything. However, Sung-yi calls him later and addresses him as dad for the first time, asking him to pick her up. Hearing this, Do-seok happily agrees and leaves on his bike, but on the way, he becomes dizzy and falls. Nobody knows what happened to him after that day. The following scenario takes us to the present day. Sung-yi and Jong-bae are in a car They have been looking for Do-suk for the past 10 years and have been unsuccessful. Jong-bae advises her to move on because they have done everything they can to find him. Just then, she suddenly sees the same board she saw as a child, and something hits her. She tells Jong-bae to go back to the police station and ask about Park Sung-bo. At the police station, the officer manages to find a man named Park Sung-bo and gives them his address, which is a mental institution. When they arrive, they discover that he is suffering from a neurological disease and is unable to speak. He only writes Pawn and Park Sung-bo, so they named him Sung-bo. When Jong-bae and Sung-yi see Do-suk, they both cry because of his condition. Do-suk, on the other hand, appears to be completely ignorant of his surroundings, but Sung-yi works hard to get him to remember her. She says he is now her pawn and swears not to leave him until he is better. As she tries on the shoes she bought for him years before, she discovers he has been saving for her future. All this makes her emotional, and Sung-yi starts sobbing, holding him and apologizing for any and all trouble she caused. Do-suk also sobs, implying that he has finally remembered her. Eventually, Do-suk is seen walking Sung-yi down the aisle on her wedding day. The film ends with Do-suk, Sung-yi, and Jong-bae posing for a picture.